Older folks didn't crack a window at night just because it was the trendy thing to do, and they sure didn't do it out of a disregard for the cold. They did it because over those long, hard winters and through years of observation, they learned that stagnant indoor air had a way of making folks sick. You see, long before we had humidifiers, air purifiers, or those fancy modern HVAC systems, the seniors noticed something simple and, well, repeatable. When the air moved, chests cleared up. But when it didn't, those coughs just lingered on through the whole winter. Now, this wasn't some kind of superstition. It was practical household knowledge shaped by coal fires, uninsulated walls, heavy bedding, and bodies that spent 10 or more hours breathing the same trapped air. Once you get a handle on the conditions they lived in, that cracked window starts to make a whole lot of practical sense. Cold winter homes, they trapped moisture, smoke, and breath. Most of those pre-war and mid-century homes were sealed tight by habit, not by design. Folks would shut the windows tight to keep in the heat from fireplaces, coal stoves, or later on, oil burners. At night, several things happened at once. Bodies released moisture through breath and sweat. Combustion appliances leaked trace smoke, soot, and gases. Damp clothes were hung to dry indoors. And the air, well, it just grew heavy and wet. That moisture didn't just cling to walls, it settled in lungs. Seniors noticed that nights spent in sealed rooms led to chest tightness, morning coughing, and phlegm that didn't clear. The cracked window changed the equation by allowing moisture-laden air to escape and drier outdoor air to replace it. Even cold winter air is often drier than indoor air saturated by breathing and combustion. You can apply this today by paying attention to overnight condensation on windows. If glass is wet in the morning, the air was too moist to support respiratory comfort. A controlled air exchange, even briefly before bed or early in the morning, addresses the same problem without modern equipment. Long before germ theory was common knowledge, people understood bad air. While the explanation was incomplete, the observation was accurate. Crowded, closed rooms produced lingering illness. Coughs spread through households and stayed there. A cracked window created airflow that diluted airborne irritants and infectious particles. Colds, bronchial infections, and winter coughs, well, they thrive in still air where exhaled droplets linger. Even minimal ventilation reduces concentration. Seniors didn't measure airflow, but they saw results over decades. A practical modern parallel is overnight ventilation during illness season. If someone in the home has a persistent cough, brief cross-ventilation before sleep and again in the morning reduces shared exposure without chilling the room. Heavy bedding did the insulation work, not sealed air. This practice only worked because beds were built for cold. Thick mattresses, layered wool blankets, feather duvets, and enclosed bed frames created a microclimate around the sleeper. The room could be cooler while the body stayed warm. Seniors understood that warmth belonged on the body, not in the air. A cracked window, well, it cooled the room, but didn't chill the sleeper one bit. The lungs, they benefited from cooler, drier air while the body stayed nice and insulated. Now, this is immediately applicable today. Instead of overheating those bedrooms, it's wiser to prioritize insulation at the bed level. A well-layered sleep system, oh boy, it allows for safer overnight ventilation. Folks who try ventilation without proper bedding, well, they miss the historical context and abandon the practice prematurely. Moist air. It sure thickens mucus. Anyone with a winter cough, they know this instinctively. Seniors observed that damp rooms, they led to rattling chests by morning, while cooler, drier air allowed mucus to thin and clear. A cracked window reduced humidity enough to ease breathing without drying the throat excessively. The balance mattered, They did not throw windows wide open. The opening was small, deliberate, and adjusted by weather. Modern homes often overshoot in both directions, either sealed and humid or aggressively dried by heating systems. The lesson here is moderation. Slight ventilation combined with controlled humidity produces the same respiratory relief seniors relied on without modern gadgets. Many seniors grew up with combustion heat. Coal fires and early gas heaters released byproducts even when functioning correctly. Sleeping in a sealed room meant inhaling low-level irritants for hours. Cracking a window allowed those gases to escape upward and outward instead of lingering at bed height. This mattered especially in bedrooms with small fireplaces or adjacent chimneys, which were common in older homes. Even today, homes with gas heaters, kerosene backups, or wood stoves benefit from overnight air exchange. The historical practice remains relevant for preparedness-minded households that rely on non-electric heat during outages. Seniors were not afraid of cold air. They feared dampness and stagnation. Cold, dry air was considered bracing, not dangerous, as long as the body was warm. This distinction has largely been lost. They noticed fewer sore throats and less chest congestion when bedrooms were cool. Overheated rooms dried nasal passages unevenly and encouraged mouth breathing, which, just worsened coughing. Applying this today means resisting the urge to heat bedrooms excessively. Cooler sleeping environments, paired with adequate bedding, support respiratory health in a way that sealed warmth just does not. This was not about toughness. It was about efficiency. Seniors used passive methods to manage air quality because, energy was scarce and medical care was limited. They optimized sleep environments with what they had. For preppers, the lesson is clear. You don't need powered systems to improve indoor air. Controlled ventilation, proper insulation at the body, and attention to moisture, they solve multiple problems at once. For historians, this practice illustrates how household habits encoded environmental knowledge long before scientific language caught up. The cracked window was a quiet, nightly adjustment rooted in observation, not theory. If this kind of practical history matters to you, go ahead and subscribe to Warfield Prepper Chronicles. Share this guide with someone who still thinks sealed air is safer and help keep these hard-earned lessons alive.